Welcome back to Pinnacle's EPL Insights for Game Week 9. 25 years of Pinnacle in everyday competitive odds. Gareth Wheeler, Jake Osgathorpe with you, back after the international break. Jake is back after taking Game Week 8 off. He went on vacation. He went abroad, got to hang out with the family, and they all fell ill while they're away, which probably compounded his misery as it was a bit of a struggle in Game Week 8. You went away and you still made picks. Flashback, it was a very good week again for me as I continue to go on this cycle of good, bad, good, bad. I'm up over 10 units of profit through 8 game weeks. You're still making a profit, Jake, just under a unit. But now that you're actually back, feet on the ground, international break in the rearview mirror, I'm thinking big things for you and your picks this week.
Hopefully, yeah. No excuse, really, because I got back on the Monday after the Arsenal City game. And yeah, I've had basically a week and a half to look ahead to these Premier League picks. So, yeah, obviously I've been covering a little bit of international football. But yeah, this is the bread and butter. But yeah, I think we're at a stage now where 8 game weeks in, we've got a really decent feel as to what each team is, what they're about, what we can expect from them. So hopefully, and this is what happened last year, we went on a bit of a run where we made quite a lot of profit because we had all the data that was starting to stack up. We had a decent sample. We had the eye test. We had a lot of more matches to take into account. So fingers crossed, this is where we start, making a little bit more profit than we are at the moment. Well, that I am anyway. Yeah.
Do we have a good feel because Spurs are leading the league? So
listen, say what you like. At the start of the season, I said Spurs would be a better team if they got rid of Harry Kane. Now, I'm not saying that I said they'd be top of the league at this stage of the season, but I did forecast them being a lot better than what many people were suggesting. So we can talk about the title race. I still don't put Tottenham in there. I don't think they've got the depth. I think that there'll be one team in the next few matches that finds a way to stifle them, and that will be like a blueprint for everyone else. And you start to see them drop a few points. And ultimately, they're not used to deal with the pressure of being in the title race. The only thing they do have going for them is they've got a great manager, no European football. They're already at the Carabao Cup. So literally their only focus is the Premier League. So there are pros and cons, but I still just don't think that they're at the level to sustain this for a 38-game season.
4 wins for me last week, including Spurs to win, beat Luton Town, and both teams to score no. It came in at plus 174. I've hit on a bunch of those this season, which has been very profitable for me, including my 4 other wins. I made a double play. You would have been proud of me last week. Brighton and the totals just is been printing this year. I had Brighton over a goal and a half against Liverpool and Brighton-Liverpool over 3.5. 3 half wins as well. Scott McTominay, Scott, that was very fortunate. And then 3 wrong. It would have been a great week. I cannot believe that Man City lost back-to-back games in the Premier League. And that was the big one last weekend. Arsenal winning late on, a 1-0 win. Before and after the Arsenal win on Pinnacle, City to win the title was listed according to the markets at minus 175, Arsenal at plus 550. After the game, City's odds have come down to minus 140, Arsenal at plus 400, Liverpool at plus 550, and Spurs at plus 1100. What do you make of that result, and what do you make of the markets and the way they've responded?
I think the result was, I don't know what to make of it, to be honest, because it was a game in which it looked like neither team wanted to lose, really, after about 40 minutes. I do think it was interesting that Man City managed just 1 shot in the second half, and they managed just 4 shots in total for the entire game. Now, I'm not saying Arsenal, because they won the shot count, were the better team, because their shots were of far less quality based on the expected goals. But I did find that quite surprising. And I do think it just underlines that, we can talk about De Bruyne, we can talk about Haaland. The most important player to Manchester City is Rodri, without a shadow of a doubt. Not only does he provide that solidity in midfield and protecting the defence, but he is probably one of their best ball players in terms of advancing through the lines and breaking lines with passes and getting people on the half turn to cause problems. Without him, they just don't look the same team. And I know he tinkered with a few things, didn't he? Brought Bernardo Silva into more of a deeper role. Obviously, alongside Kovacic, he was very fortunate to stay on the pitch. But yeah, it's no surprise, is it? They've lost 3 of the last 4 in all competitions, all 3 domestically when Rodri's been suspended. The one they won was when he played in the Champions League against a good Leipzig team. So I do think that there's a bit of a common denominator there. He's obviously back now for, Man City will be hoping the rest of the season. But just something to keep an eye on is the number of minutes he has in his legs over the last couple of years, Rodri. So towards the back end of the year, it wouldn't be surprised if he took a, not quite a Fabinho drop of form, but of that kind of ilk where he just starts to look a little bit tired because he didn't miss a beat last season in the treble season. And yeah, this time around, and he's had 3 games off, but he will be running to the ground again because they just don't trust anyone else.
Andrew Beasley did a great job on the podcast last week. He was explaining some metric, I don't have it in front of me, about how Man City performs with Rodri and without Rodri. I'm not sure if you had that data available to you, but it jumps off the page just how good they are with him in the team and how much they struggle a little bit with him out of the team. Like Bernardo Silva was playing in a much deeper role. It just didn't look right to me. Obviously, Calvin Phillips' season is not coming. It's going to be the off season when he finds himself somewhere else. I mean, it's just, I'm not sure if that affects the way that you look at City here. Are some seeds of doubt being planted around their title credentials, or is that being blown out of proportion? Like, let's be honest, there was nothing in that game. Arsenal rather fortunate to come away with the 3 points. That game had goalless draw written all over it in terms of the way the game was playing out. So what do you make of the quote unquote title race? Is it still City's to lose? Like I'm looking at, Spurs and Arsenal have done really well out of the gate. I still have my eye on Liverpool here, and they were a preseason bet I made. I still think that they're very strong with room for improvement, actually, in this Liverpool side. What do you make of it, Jake?
City have shown a bit of vulnerability there with Rodri, and the stat that you're talking about is that since he came into the club, they've lost 5 of 15 Premier League games that Rodri has missed, and lost just 5 of 67 that he's played, which is kind of just reinforces the importance there. I think City are still fair favourites. I wouldn't be putting, that their price at -140 kind of reflects that the market, everyone betting, everyone who's watched them suggests that they will, get things right. But I do have my doubts. Just obviously the injury list is big. Some good players that are missing there, some great players that are absent. They will come back at some point, but it's just a matter of when for me. Because if you look at the upcoming schedule, I think this is a defining period for City. The next games, they play Brighton, Manchester United, Bournemouth, which is probably the only game out of this little run that they'll be heavily fancied to win. Then they play Chelsea, Liverpool, Tottenham, Villa. So they've got, 7, 8 games there with just one with basically they play 7 of the teams we expect to finish in the top 8, which I think is. Yeah, it is a huge period for City. Just the fixture list in general is set up to, looking at the start of the season, we always looked at this schedule for City to start. Burnley, Newcastle, Sheff Utd, Fulham, West Ham, Forest, Wolves, and thought, there's every chance they could be on maximum points. They nearly did that. They lost just once against Wolves. And then it was started with Arsenal, and you're getting that really tough schedule. And it's just a case of, can they click into gear? We know they usually click into gear in the second half of the season, but there's every chance if they don't click into gear over this next 7 games, they could drop points in 4 or 5. And the way I tipped Arsenal at the start of the season to win the league, I think they're still a good shout to do that because they are playing in what you would have to call an uninspiring, but they're playing uninspiring winning football. That's what they're doing. They don't blow you away when you watch them. They're not like emphatically beating teams like they were at this stage of last season, but I see that as a positive. It's almost like they're trying to keep something in the tank for later in the campaign. If they can just edge to 1-0s, 2-0s, 2-1s, and then kick into gear and really get on a run, I think they could do well. But looking at City's schedule, this could be a time to oppose them because, the way in which they've been playing has not been brilliant, even though they have played an easy schedule. So, equally, if you think that City is still the bet, then I would advise waiting until maybe December and then looking at the table because you might get a decent price about City to turn things around like they did last season.
Good tip. I guess the good news for City, other than De Bruyne, they're back fully fit. Stones is back. Kovacic is back. And we'll see what the response or what kind of response comes from Pep. He's been on and off the bench as well. It's just been a little bit of an awkward stretch for them. Let's dig into this week's fixture list. 10 games. We'll go through the feature five, then we'll go rapid fire. For the remaining five, we'll share our top bets and our favorite picks of the week as well. And we'll see if we can sneak in another head-to-head or two. Jake having the leg up in that category, 3-1 over yours truly thus far this season. So let's start off with the early fixture on Saturday. It's the Merseyside Derby at 12:30 local time. It's fourth place Liverpool against 16th place Everton. Liverpool coming off a 2-2 draw against Brighton. They've gone over 2.5 in 9 of 10. Both teams to score in 6 of 7, but they've been the first to concede in 5 of 7. They play at home. They love playing at Anfield. 5 wins at home in 5 in all competitions. This season, 14 goals scored, just 3 against. They're undefeated in 13 straight in all competitions at home, and we keep on bringing this up. Their last loss in the Premier League came all the way back October 29th of last year in a 2-1 loss to Leeds United. They had the second best expected goals, courtesy of Understat at 18.74. That's only 0.04 behind Newcastle right away, so almost a dead heat in that category. Mo Salah, 5 goals, 4 assists, tied with Erling Haaland for the most goal involvements. Jota still suspended, but Gakpo's close, and we'll be keeping an eye on Andy Robertson at the time of recording. Did his shoulder on international duty. He seems unlikely, but the way that injuries are disclosed or not disclosed this season, your guess is as good as mine. Everton coming off a 3-0 victory over Bournemouth, an emphatic win for the Toffees, over 2.5 in 6 of 7. Both teams to score in 5 of 7. This Sean Dyche side is creating chances. There's no doubt about that. They're 5th in expected goals somehow, 17.56, but they only have 9 goals scored to show for it. The 8.56 differential between actual goals and expected goals is the biggest gap in the Premier League so far this season. 14.34 expected points as well, based upon the underlying stats, puts them 7th in that category. Everton undefeated in their last 4 away games in all competitions. Head-to-head, Liverpool won this fixture 2-0 last season. They drew. It was a goalless draw at Goodison Park. Liverpool haven't lost to Everton in 4. Liverpool, no goals conceded in their last 3. And these two sides have actually played to the under in 4 of 5. Everton, the numbers look good, but going to Anfield, it's the most difficult place to go based upon the numbers in the Premier League. So how do you see this one playing out, Jake?
This is an interesting one because of those the data you quoted there around Everton, the fact that they are creating chances, just not taking them. And we've started to see them take a few chances recently. Obviously, hammered Bournemouth, hammered Brentford. In between that, they obviously had a shocking loss to Luton, in which they created chances again, just didn't take them on that occasion. But equally, they are giving up chances, which is where I look at potential weakness. And, you've got Liverpool, one of, if not the best attacking team in the league. I still don't think they're firing on all cylinders just yet in attack, which is quite frightening, really, for the rest of the league, because, as you mentioned, they are already the second best attacking team in the league, marginally to Newcastle. They've been emphatic at home so far this season. They've scored 3 in all of them home matches, averaged nearly 2.9 expected goals per home game, which I think is just ridiculous, conceding just 1 expected goal against per game. So I looked at this and just thought, you've got a really strong attacking team against a team that's okay in attack, showing signs of life, but can't defend. Away from home, they've allowed 1.7 expected goals against per game, have Everton, which is a really poor record. If you look at the teams they've played, Brentford away, they've been away to Aston Villa, away to Sheffield United. That is it's not the toughest of schedules, and I would have expected a little bit more especially from a Sean Dyche led team. So I ended up settling on, the goal line looks a bit too high. I was tempted to go unders on the goal line, but I ended up Liverpool are just a better team. They're just so good at home. They are very trustworthy. Enough for me to back them on the handicap at -104, because I just think that they are. You mentioned it there, that they are definitely in the title race. I do want to see a little bit more from them in the midfield area, but I don't think they'll need anything like that to cause Everton problems. Because if Everton do try and or continue to play in this more attack-minded manner, they'll just get picked off by Liverpool. So I do expect Everton to try and revert a little bit, to be a bit more secure. I don't think it's going to make a difference. So I think Liverpool will dominate this game and win fairly comfortably. So a unit play for me on Liverpool -1.5.
-1.5. So 2 goals required for an outright win for Jake on that play. I completely understand it. I'm going to go in a little bit of a different direction here. Typically, at least in recent vintage, these games are very tightly contested. There really hasn't been much between the teams. And I think Liverpool are going to win the game. I completely agree with that. But I'm not sure if Everton's going to be able to create chances against this Liverpool side the way that they have against the Lutons, the injured Brentford sides, the Bournemouth of this world here. So I'm going to combine it. I'm going to go Liverpool to win and both teams to score no. So both teams to score no, Liverpool win at +167. And we'll see. I think that the numbers, they clearly don't lie when it comes to how much Everton's being created, and they get forward and they're aggressive in attack, but it's an entirely different animal when you're going to Anfield to play Liverpool. And I think it's a game where Konyate's back in the team, the center backs are fit, Robertson's the only real question in this team. I just think that they don't have the weapons or the reliable attacking weapons to go and really expose Liverpool's back line, which at home has been good. They've only conceded 3 on this season at home as well. So give me that combination play. To me, it's worth the risk to get it at a plus number like that. A Liverpool win and a clean sheet. I think it's entirely possible. They did it 2-0 last season as well, and they've conceded their last 3 against Everton. So a full unit play on that, and let's hope that another big plus number comes through. I know the combination plays. I don't delve into them all the time, but I have a couple this week, and this is the first of a couple that I'm going to be playing. So we'll see. Who's the reliable goal scorer on this Everton side? They can create chances, but you need the finishers, Jake. And Calvert-Lewin, I know he scored a couple weeks back. Harrison scored on his debut. James Garner, set pieces from your boy Tarkowski. That's how they need to score goals. I just don't think that they're a team that just has natural goal scorers within the squad. So that's going to be my play this week. Anfield's been a fortress, and I just think it's going to continue to be that way. It's hard to make the argument otherwise, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I don't know. I think they're in a tough spot either way, Everton. If they have a go, they're going to get picked off. If they sit back, they're going to lose anyway. So I'd be intrigued to see what kind of approach Dyche takes, whether it is, a very Dychean kind of sit deep and try and counterattack, or whether he does just say, look, chances are we're going to lose anyway. Let's go down swinging. In which case, I could see them getting on the score sheet. So, yeah, at least we've got an boring international break. At least we're coming out of it with a bit of a bang, and hopefully we do get a bit of entertainment.
Was a boring international break. Good way of putting it. Let's move forward. It's 3 p.m. on Saturday. 3rd place Manchester City taking on 6th place Brighton. City coming off that 1-0 loss to Arsenal. Only 4 shots, 1 on target. Holland a 0-0-0 XG. Rodri, big miss again, but he returns this weekend. Over the entire match against Arsenal, just a 0.86 expected goals. Not a typical City game whatsoever. 3 losses in their last 4 in all competitions and back-to-back losses in the Premier League. Explain that to me. How does this happen to Man City? Hence why I was on them last weekend. Let's see if they can right the wrongs. They don't have a clean sheet in their last 4. And the weirdest thing, they've been the first to concede in 5 of their last 7 games in all competitions. City, however, are perfect at home in the Premier League. 3 wins from 3, 8 goals scored, just 1 conceded. Brighton, they played to a 2-2 draw against Liverpool. It was a difficult turnaround, however, because they played Marseille to a 2-2 draw in the Europa League just a couple days before. 21 goals in 8 Premier League games. That's tops in the league. They're 3rd in expected goals, 5-1-2 overall. However, they're bottom half in expected goals against. They haven't won in 4 in all competitions. No clean sheet in their last 13 games. It says a lot about them, doesn't it? They've gone over the 2.5 total in 9 of 10. Both teams to score in 9 of 10, and they've been the first to concede as well in 5 of 6. And Stupinian is out long term. The fullback is going to be a miss. Matoma should be good to go after missing out with Japan over the course of the international window. Head-to-head, City, they won this fixture 3-1 last season. They played to a 1-1 draw at the Amex. City haven't lost to Brighton in 4. They've been the first to score in their last 8 against Brighton, and the first half winner in 8 of 10. Brighton hasn't had a clean sheet against City in 14, and over the total of 2.5 has played in 4 of 5. Both teams to score in 4 of 5 as well. So Brighton, obviously, they're aggressive attacking wise. They leave all kinds of gaps to be exposed as well. It seems like a scenario where City are going to be ripe to come out with a performance and can pick off this Brighton team, at least from a defensive perspective. The question is, will City be more stable in terms of their back four, or will they continue to concede, which is completely against the grain because their expected goals against continues to lead the way in the Premier League? So what do you see playing out here? It's a difficult one.
It is and it isn't, because Brighton are just the goal kings, aren't they? So when you're seeing it, I know the line is high at 3.5, but when you're seeing that available at minus 104, at this stage of the season, it feels like an automatic play just because of everything we've seen, everything we know about Brighton. They played 8 Premier League matches and over 3.5 has landed in all 8, which is just ridiculous. And it kind of shows you the good and the bad about Brighton. That they are very adventurous. They're very good to watch. They're very expansive, but they're very stubborn in the way in which they play. They could get caught out 2-3 times. We saw them get hammered by West Ham. We saw them get hammered by Villa, and they just carry on playing the same way. And that's what we love about them. They've got their own philosophy, their own way of doing things. It doesn't change depending on who they play against. Now, what I will say is that Brighton's record against the Big Seven is really, really good. So that kind of style of football does lend itself to playing against the big teams. So across the last 21 Premier League matches against the Big Seven, I'm including Newcastle in there with the Big Six, they've won 11 times and lost just 6, which is a really, really strong record. They've scored 39 times and conceded 29 in those 21 matches. So again, you can tell just from those games, those raw figures, 68 goals in 21 games against the Big Seven. Goals are generally prevalent whenever they play against them. Now, obviously, that period takes into account De Zerbi from last season, this season, and then a little bit of Potter from the start of last season as well. So, they've scored twice or more in 12 of those 21 games as well against the Big Seven. So, I don't see a reason why they wouldn't score once, maybe twice here at the Etihad. But especially given the way they've started an attack. I mean, you mentioned there, their attacking numbers are off the scale, really. But, we've talked about Rodri already. He's back in for Manchester City. You've got Erling Haaland, who was going to be massively frustrated after his international break. The fact that they are now, his nation can't qualify for the Euros. He obviously had that really bad game against Arsenal where, for whatever reason, they just weren't creating the chances for him. I think City come back at this with, it's a great opportunity to stamp their authority. I wouldn't be surprised if they did similar to what Villa did and maybe hit Brighton for 6 or 7, because I think that Brighton play in a way in which that could happen. They've conceded 1.9 expected goals against per game, which is just again, like crazy numbers for a team that we think are going to finish in the top 6. I think it looks like a good bounce back game for Man City. I was tempted with a handicap. The handicap's at minus 1.25. I did have a second glance at that because I do think City will probably win this, maybe like a 4-2. But I just think the safest play is overs on the goals because, it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise you if it finished 2-2. It wouldn't surprise us if it finished 7-1 to Man City. It wouldn't surprise us if it finished 4-1 to Brighton. It would be a surprise if it was 0-0 or 1-1 or, something like that. So for me, I'm taking the goal line. The price has actually moved, which is interesting. It was odds on minus 104 yesterday. It's now plus 101. So that's even better. We're getting a little bit of value. I think it should be probably moving the other way. That's my play. I'm going to make it a 1.5 unit play as well because I know the Brighton goals train is going to run out at some point. But this seems like a real opportunity for Pep Guardiola to kind of just show everyone his boss.
Lay down the hammer. I mean, he says that De Zerbi's the best manager that he's seen, other than when he looks in the mirror. The only thing that makes me nervous on that total, and seeing that the number is moved, it tempts me to turn my focus there. I actually locked in a bet already. It's actually moved a little bit, but I'll take what the number's at right now. I'm going over the goal total for Man City. So I'm playing Brighton kind of the opposite way because I think City can easily score 3, 4. You mentioned the Villa game, could score 6 in this one. And because Brighton, the way that they play, they're going to play wide open. The only thing that adds a little bit of a seed of doubt for me is whether City just focus a little bit more on the defensive side. They didn't really give up anything to Arsenal, in fairness, at the Emirates. And some of the goals that they've been giving up, there's just been really like, I don't think they're a problem defensively. That's what I'm trying to say. And Brighton will be really tested here. I can't see City coming laying an egg and losing or dropping points in 3 consecutive Premier League games. I just can't.
Yeah.
I think they'll
Do you
go
know the last
out.
time they lost back-to-back Premier League games?
I don't know.
2018.
Yeah.
The last time they lost back-to-back Prem games. And I think the Premier League team with the second best record last lost back-to-back games in 2021. So City went 3 years longer than any other team in the league without losing back-to-back. So the loss at Arsenal will have come as a massive shock to the system. They're just not used to that.
Right. A full unit play, Man City over 2.5 goals to be scored in this game at plus 115. That's my play. I know it's juiced a little bit, City, but against this Brighton side, I think they can't score 3, 4. It wouldn't surprise me. So that's my number one play at plus 113. I actually locked it in last night at plus 115. The number's gone down a little bit. I was also considering both teams to score and City win at plus 146. Again, it's just, if I'm going to play that, then I'd probably play it a little bit more safe and just play the total. But I'll just stay with the City goals in this game at plus 113. Full unit play. That's all. No need to dig in anymore.
Agreement.
Shall we move on? Another good one. Man, it's a good slate coming out of the international window this week. 11th place Chelsea plays second place Arsenal. A game at 5:30 on Saturday. Chelsea 4-1 win at Burnley. I had Chelsea to win and to not concede in that game. They conceded first. They conceded early and came back and actually scored 4 goals. They've actually scored 6 goals since Domino's outside of Craven Cottage was mocking them about how many pizzas were sold since Chelsea last scored a goal. And now they got some players back in the team and they're scoring goals. In fact, back-to-back games, they've scored multiple goals, 3 wins in a row. But they still have gone under 2.5 and 5 of 6. Gusto returns from suspension to play right back. It seems like Reece James is still a little bit off. But they have so many players that are questionable or out. If you look at their injury list, it's like 12, 13, 14 players have a question mark beside them or are out for this week. The Sassy and Broha are questionable. They're probably good to go, but a little bit of a doubt at the time of recording. Arsenal and Chelsea, what's crazy if you look at the numbers in terms of XG on Understat. Arsenal, in terms of XG, 15.8. Chelsea, 15.79. It's like a virtual dead heat there. Although Arsenal scored 5 more goals than Chelsea, 16-11. Arsenal have the 3rd best expected goals against. Chelsea have the 4th best expected goals against. It's just crazy the little differentials between these teams and how the numbers paint a very similar story. Pochettino, by the way, 4-7-4 all-time facing Arsenal. As for the Gunners, 1-0 victory over City. Martinelli, the late match winner. They just had a .39 expected goals in the game, but good enough to win. Still undefeated, 6 wins, 2 draws. And it was a bounce back after a 2-1 loss at Lens in the Champions League. They've been first to score in 7 of 7. They have a perfect record away from home in the Premier League, 3 wins from 3. Saka, Saliba, Trossard, all questionable as of right now. And they do play Sevilla in the Champions League away on Tuesday. Head-to-head, Arsenal won 3-1 at home and won 1-0 at the Bridge last season. And Arsenal beat Chelsea 4 times in a row. So Chelsea showing some signs of life. Isn't enough to make a play that kind of sides with Chelsea in this game? Or what are you thinking here?
Yeah, not for me. I think they are they're definitely. It's a weird one with Chelsea because the underlying data paints a picture of a team that are trending in a positive direction, that are going to, climb into that top four conversation. But then if you look at the schedule, it's been really kind. So I'm definitely taking their underlying data with a pinch of salt. They started with Liverpool, but then they played West Ham, who finished in the bottom half last year, and they're much improved this time. Luton, Forest, Bournemouth, Villa, who obviously we rate as a good team, Fulham, Burnley. So they played maybe two good teams so far this season. And if you order the table by expected points, you can actually get a expected position of their opponent that they've faced. And the average of that is 13.9, whereas you look at Arsenal, it's at 10.6. So you can see straight away that Arsenal played a tougher schedule, which means that you have to put more stock in their underlying data, even though the data is telling you that they both have performed the same. I'm not, like I said, I think if Chelsea had put this kind of run together from a data perspective, and then we're coming into a nice kind bit of schedule, I'd say look at backing them like all the time. But they've had their easy part of the schedule. Like they've played 8 games where they should have probably picked up maybe 15 points, 16 points minimum. And then you look at the next matches. You've got Arsenal, Brentford, Tottenham, Man City, Newcastle, Brighton, Man United. Like that's their next 7 games. So they basically the data is telling you that they're going on an upward curve, but they've not been tested yet. Yeah. This is the start of their test, and I've seen enough from Arsenal to suggest that they are, like I said at the start of the season, title candidates. I think they're going to be up there again. Obviously, they've beaten Man United. They drew with Tottenham in what was a very good game. They've beaten Manchester City. They've come through those kind of tests almost unscathed. I know all of those have been at home, which is the only caveat, is that this is away from home. But then if you just have a look at Chelsea's home record, it's really bad. Really bad. This season, drawn with Liverpool, beat Luton, which every team should be doing. Nottingham Forest, they've lost, and Aston Villa, they've lost at home. And if you stretch it back to the start of the calendar year, I know Pochettino wasn't in charge. The player turnaround has been huge, but they've won just 3 of 16 home games in the league since the start of 2023. So for whatever reason, the players there just do not like playing at Stamford Bridge. And they haven't picked up a scalp in that time. Like I said, Luton is the team that they beat this season. Last season, the home wins that come into this category, they beat Leeds, who got relegated, and they beat Crystal Palace, who were in the midst of, should we sack Vieira, should we not sack Vieira? So the 3 wins have come against 3 very poor teams. Arsenal obviously aren't a poor team at all, and their underlying numbers have been strong. Arsenal, a couple of years ago, they were being banded as home merchants, that they can't play away from home. That completely changed last year. They had the best away record in the league. They've kind of carried that on this time around. They've made light work of Bournemouth, a really kind of hard-fought win at Everton, hard-fought win at Crystal Palace. It's just what they do now, Arsenal. And it wouldn't be a surprise if they went there to Stamford Bridge and won 1-0, ground something out. I'm definitely leaning towards Arsenal and quite happy to take them on the handicap, minus a quarter at plus 105. So the line has moved. It's got shorter, which suggests that, the sharps are kind of thinking the same way as what we are in terms of the Arsenal are definitely the team to be siding with. And, ultimately taking them at minus a quarter means that if the game ends in a draw, you make a half loss. If Arsenal win, you get, a full payout. So, that for me is the way. And I did look at the unders. The unders did call my name a few times and say back me, but I just think the Arsenal play is the way in.
I Arsenal at plus 137 to win, very, very tempting. I got to be honest with you. I might have to jump on that. But like you, the unders were calling my name. Under 2.5, a full unit play at minus 108. Like this is a Chelsea play. You said something earlier in this podcast about Arsenal that they're managing games. It hasn't always looked great, but they're doing enough to get over the line. So keeping things tight, especially away from home in this game. I just think under 2.5 is the best play to make at minus 108.
Yeah, and
plus 130. I'm just gonna leave it at. The problem is I just don't know who's going to play for Chelsea in this game right now. I might end up making a play on Arsenal, once we have some clarity, once the managers speak about who might be playing for both sides, if there's no Saka in the team again, do I think he's just such an important player to this Arsenal team, especially in a game like this. And Chelsea,
Didn't bother him against Man City, did it?
but that game should have ended in a draw. Like the way that it played out, it was a little bit fortunate. Playing at home at the Emirates, they'd be great at home, Arsenal. So
you got it away.
Yeah. I haven't lost. I get that.
The absentees at Chelsea are much more important, I think, because Disasi, he's injured. Badiashile's still not back yet. It looks as though they're going to have to shift Colwill to centre half, which means Cucurella is going to have to play at left back. So obviously, if Saka is playing
with Gusto back in, and I think, maybe, but if he doesn't play, I think that Caicedo and Fernandes and Gallagher have really solidified things for Chelsea. Palmer's shown signs of life. Mudryk has shown signs of life. I just don't think they can score.
Both got taken off in the international break with injuries as well.
Are they? But are they both out? I don't know. This is why it's very difficult.
I know. But they both had treatment and then got subbed off. So there's those question marks about what that attacking line is going to look like for Chelsea. At least for Arsenal, they're going to have Gabriel Jesus or Saka at the right wing. And I always think Gabriel Jesus' best position is on the wing. I don't think he finishes enough chances to play down the middle. Whoever plays there, Saka or Jesus, is going to be an absolute handful. The midfield's pretty set. You're going to have Rice, you're going to have Ødegaard, you're going to have Havertz. Partey's fit. He can come in and play if you want to play a bit more defensive. Then the Saliba, he's expected to play. All the journalists over here are saying that he should be able to play, which is huge. You mentioned Brozier, who obviously played and scored a couple of goals against Fulham, looked really sharp. He's out for Chelsea as well, so it means Nicholas Jackson's going to have to come in again. He scored a couple of gols, but
this is that caliber. Saliba in, some of these players out. It just gives me that much more conviction to back the under. Under minus 108. But
definitely. I think if he's, I'm on the same thought path as you. I think under 2.5 is I might have to put an extra unit on it. I just think that if it is unders, I think Arsenal will edge it. Basically, that's my thought path. If it's going to be an under 2.5 game, I think I have more confidence in Arsenal kind of coming through a low scoring game than I do Chelsea.
I outside this podcast, I might end up making a personal play on Arsenal, but I'm not prepared to make one right now. The other one I considered, both teams to score no at plus 113 on Pinnacle. I considered that because I think it could be a 1-0 again. If it's a 1-1, under minus 108, that one is locked in for a full unit, and we'll see from a personal perspective what else I might sprinkle on this game. There's some really good numbers for this game on Pinnacle, honestly, depending what side you fall on here. So keep an eye on the markets, figure out which players may or may not be available for this game, the best of your ability, and kind of go from there. But I have the most confidence in the under, and Jake has most confidence on Arsenal with the handicap at a plus number too. That's a nice little number. And you know how much I love those plays. If you listen to the podcast on a regular basis, it feels like I'm making a play like that on the handicap plus number week in, week out. Let's move things forward.
I'm just going to join you with the unders as well. I'm going to have 2 plays on this game.
Good.
I'm going to go full unit on Arsenal handicap, full unit under 2.5.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Under. It was calling my name,
Yes. That was my one lock heading into this week's board. I thought Jake is definitely playing the unders in this game. So, yeah.
I'm writing a preview for site. The first bet I put in was Kai Havertz to be carded because I think he's way overpriced. But the second bet was under 2.5 goals.
Nice.
Which, So I've kind of got to double down and make sure that I get it everywhere because, like we've discussed, you've got a Chelsea team that, they're creating chances but can't finish at the rate they should be. The defence has been fairly solid, and Arsenal just look a very solid away team. So, let's ride the under train.
We got to move this along. I might have a suggested card play a little bit later on in this podcast, which is not what I usually do. 20th place Sheffield United taking on 10th place Manchester United. It's a weird 8 p.m. on Saturday night. Sheffield United 3-1 loss at Fulham, 0.25 XG in that game. 4 losses in a row. 10 games without a win for Sheffield United. No clean sheets in 5 for the Blades, over 2.5 though in 4 of 5, and first to concede in 8 of 10. Basham, Egan, a bunch of others, 8 or 9 players are out for this team as well. So they're bad and they're injured. That's a horrible combination. A 5.4 XG in 8 is last. A 22.97 expected goals against is worst. 22 goals conceded is the worst. I'll leave the Blades alone, although Jake would like me to keep on hammering them.
I'm gonna, stick a fork in them Blades very soon.
Okay. United, 2-1 victory. Scott McTominay saves United. Dun, 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 dun. Scott McTominay. I've had that song in my head for the last week and a half now. They actually had a goal chalked off, and then McTominay scored 93rd, 97th, Bedlam at Old Trafford, and the team could breathe easily in terms of the press for a couple days, and the ownership things came out. It's chaos once again. Ho-hum. They were coming off back-to-back losses, 1-0 to Palace, 3-2 to Galatasaray. They needed a positive result, although it wasn't pretty. It ended a streak as well of 3 home losses out of 4. Still, they've lost 6 of 11 to start the season at Manchester United. Only 9 goals scored in 8 games, big problem. Only 12th in expected goals, big problem. However, their team has gone over the total of 2.5 in 7 of 9 and no clean sheets in 3. 1 win in just 3 away games this season and just a 4.25 XG in those games. 2 goals scored, 5 against away from home. Their injury list, I don't know who's going to play. Varane missed the last game. Is he going to come back? I don't know. Reguilon's got to be close to coming back. Manu close to coming back. Casemiro suspended against Copenhagen, yet he's making the return back from South America for this game. And he came off early against Venezuela, but played in a 2-0 loss to Uruguay. So we'll see. Home to Copenhagen, like I said, Tuesday before the Manchester Derby next weekend. But then they have 3 straight home games over the course of that stretch. Copenhagen City, Newcastle. So a big couple weeks for Manchester United. Head-to-head, United beat Sheffield United back in 2020. It was a 3-2 final in this fixture. However, that 2020 season, the Blades went down, but they still beat United 2-1 at Old Trafford. Sheffield United, no clean sheets in 9, but they've gone over 2.5 in 4 of 5. What's the play here, Jake? Are you going to just stick a fork in them and back the unpredictable and the erratic Manchester United side in this fixture today, this weekend?
Hell no. No, you can't trust Man United right now, no matter who they're playing against.
I'm trusting them against Sheffield United, I'll tell you that much.
Oh, yeah, I obviously fully expect them to win. They're minus 233 to win the game. They should win, but come on. You can't back them with much confidence, even though they are playing Sheffield United to cover a handicap. Not saying I'm taking Sheffield United on the handicap at all, because that's not what I'm doing. But yeah, you mentioned it there. United, they rank very much mid-table on all the major metrics so far this season. Their attacking numbers down massively on last year. 1.5 expected goals for per game this year. Last year, they're up at 1.9, so it's a fairly big drop-off. And away from home, just 1.3 expected goals for per game. And, against Burnley, they just did enough to win. They kind of kept Burnley at arm's length. It was much more of a defensive, kind of battle than what we'd expect from a team of United's calibre. And yeah, the Blades are just rubbish. There's no 2 ways about it. And to put it into context, since 2014, no team has accumulated fewer expected points than Sheffield United have after 8 games. I cannot understate. So on understat, their expected points is, I think it starts with a 2. It's 2.42. Now, I cannot understate how difficult it is for a team to get that few expected points from 8 matches. For those who don't know how expected points is calculated, you basically take the expected goals for and against from an individual game. You run a Poisson simulation. You basically re-simulate the game thousands, tens of thousands of times. You get a percentage chance of team A winning, team B winning, and the draw. And then once you've got the percentage chances, you multiply, by, obviously, you get a win, you get 3 points. So you multiply team A by 3, multiply it by 1 to get a draw, and then you end up with your expected points. It's so difficult to get that few expected points through 8 matches. The second worst since 2014, second worst team picked up over 4 expected points, so nearly double what Sheffield United have managed. So that kind of just hammers home the context of just how bad. Like at this stage of the season, they are historically bad from a data perspective. Granted, they've had a tough-ish schedule. They played City, they played Spurs.
They almost beat
Newcastle.
Spurs. How does that? Anyways,
Yeah. But either side of that,
they didn't.
Palace, Forest, Everton, West Ham, Fulham, like they've not. Other than that, it's not been like they've had the gauntlet of all the big teams. So, their attack has been non-existent. 0.7 expected goals for per game. They're very much a defence-first team anyway. They're going to set up in this match exactly the same way as they did against Manchester City. Try and snatch a goal and sit deep and just defend for their lives, similar to what they did against Tottenham. Didn't work against Newcastle. They were all over the place. Man United's attacking struggles. Sheffield United being a defence-first team. I have to go with the unders. The line's set at 3, which I'm very happy with because obviously if it finishes 2-1, as quite a few of those games we mentioned does, I get a push. The uncertainty around Manchester United's team news, the attacking players that they have fit, the attacking players that still perhaps haven't gelled, definitely has me leaning towards this being more of a game in similar mould to what we saw them do against Burnley, which was like a 1-0. Maybe a bit more controlled this time, given the lack of attacking impetus United have among the ranks. So, under 3. I'm going to go 1.5 unit play minus 102 is the price. So, that's me. I'm guessing from what you were saying earlier, you're going to be taking United on a handicap.
No, I'm not. I actually considered the unders, strongly considered the unders. These might be famous last words, but I think United are just going to turn around their form and be a lot better. I realize, Rasmus Højlund looks to be the real deal. United been playing this season, never mind the defensive errors and the comical stuff and the lack of players available due to injury. Their best players have been completely out of form. Rashford, Bruno Fernandes, their top players they've really missed Luke Shaw on the team. They desperately need him back to provide some balance in the team. They have nothing down that left-hand side. I think once they get that, they're going to be a little bit better. And Bruno's coming off some good performances in the international window. Højlund continues to perform. Rashford scored a good goal. I think it's a matter of time.
Is Højlund fit?
He got kicked about. It sounds like
he got hammered, didn't he?
He did against San Marino, but it sounds like he's okay. He's a big boy and he's young. He's a young, strapping lad.
I don't know if you've seen the clips, but he's literally taking like wrestling moves to the back, the flying knees and stuff to his back, which is like, what are you doing? Like
crazy.
What sport we play in San Marino?
Yeah, they're watching the Rugby World Cup right now. You mentioned United at Burnley. I think it's going to play out like that a little bit, but United a little bit more in control. I like United to win to 0 at plus 163. I got United to win to 0 at Burnley. Very similar number. I'm going to go back to the well with that. We've talked about it, just maybe restraining. United playing a little bit more controlled at times. Onana's not this bad. Some of the players are not this bad in this team. We'll see if I'm Ten Hag as well. I bring Maguire back into the team to play on the left side with Varane on the right. Just Lindelof hasn't played very well. And if Reguilon can't go, you play Lindelof at left
United
back.
Player.
So
he knows Bramall Lane well, does Harry Maguire?
That's kind of what I was thinking there. I'm not sure Amrabat's health status. I'd start him in the midfield, provide a little bit more balance there as well. I think the United are inching their way closer despite not getting performances. I think a good clean sheet win, 1-0, 2-0 makes a lot of sense here going away from home in this one. So I'm going to back United to win to 0, plus 163 full unit play.
Yeah, I won't put anyone off following you on that. I think I got it down as 1-0 in my column on site. And I just would say one kind of side bet that I would potentially look at closer to the time once we've seen the team news is Harry Maguire to score in the player props market, because we saw Newcastle absolutely destroy Sheffield United from set pieces. Yeah. I think the first 3 goals all came from set pieces in that 8-0 drubbing. Obviously, United had success against Brentford from set pieces in the last game. I know there's a couple of recycled plays, but it all came from the set piece situation. So if they can kind of take that form against a good set piece team, against to this game against a vulnerable set piece team, then Maguire and his massive head could contribute to the scoring.
It's a huge hint. Okay, we are running a little bit heavy, so let's get to it's weird, the only fixture on Sunday in the Premier League, Saturday. It's going to be great. Sunday, a quiet one, but it does feature what should be a good game. 5th place Aston Villa and 7th place West Ham played at 4:30 local time. Villa coming off a 1-1 draw at Wolves in a competitive derby match. The XG, very evenly played. Villa haven't lost in 3 overall. Both teams to score in 5 of 7. Last time at home, they smashed Brighton 6-1. 3 wins from 3 at home, 13 goals scored, just 2 conceded. The third most goals in the Premier League with 19, but only 9th in terms of expected goals and 11th in expected goals against. So they might be overachieving to a certain degree. But their expected goals against at home is good, 3.57 in 3 home matches. A little bit of a blow. Jacob Ramsey looks to be out again. Check in on that one as well, but that could be a considerable loss for Villa because he's a really good player. West Ham, they gave me a half win last week, playing to a 2-2 draw against Newcastle, I should say 2 weeks ago. Kudos with the late equalizer. They haven't lost a game in 4. They've gone over 2.5 in 8 of 10. Both teams to score in 8 of 10. First to score in 8 of 10. They're 11th in XG, the 4th worst in expected goals against at 17.7, but have only conceded 12 goals. That is the biggest difference between actual and expected in terms of goals conceded and expected goals against. They are 2-1-1 away from home, 7 goals scored, 6 against. Last year, it was a 1-0 West Ham victory at Villa Park and a 1-1 draw in the reverse fixture. West Ham haven't lost to Villa in 11, and they've been first to score in 5 of 6. Villa, no clean sheets against West Ham in 7, and both teams to score is played in 6 of 7. What's your play for this one, Jake?
Yeah, I think Villa end that run. I think the price on a Villa win is very appetising. You mentioned they've won all 3 home games this season in the league. They've actually won 10 straight Premier League home games under Unai Emery, stretching back to last season. They've won those by an aggregate of 27-4. So they no problem scoring goals. Very, very solid at Villa Park. And yeah, that's what I'm leaning on. I think they're a really, really strong home team. West Ham away from home. As you mentioned, the defensive figures have been poor in general, but away from home, they're shipping 2.3 expected goals against per game, which is a really, really high number. You'd think, they played at Liverpool, but they played at Luton and conceded over 2 expected goals. Like, if you carry on doing that, you're going to get beat heavily by somebody. And, Liverpool did a job on them. That was not really a contest. I know West Ham got a goal, but Liverpool just created loads. And I know they went to Brighton and caused a huge upset there, winning 3-1. But
they did.
Aston Villa are more streetwise than Brighton. Unai Emery is happier than Roberto De Zerbi to switch things up a little bit. He'll look at the opponent and he'll tweak his tactics slightly. De Zerbi doesn't do that. De Zerbi says, no, we're playing like this. And I think that's what gives Aston Villa a small edge over Brighton, maybe in the long run, but also when they're coming against opponents like West Ham who like to play in a certain way. I think Villa are more than happy to kind of adapt their approach. And Emery's a great coach. Villa have got really good players. They're stacked. I know you mentioned Jacob Ramsey. Obviously, Zaniolo's being investigated for all sorts of stuff in Italy at the moment, so he's not going to be there. But I still think they've got a deep enough squad to be able to deal with all that. So full unit play, Villa to win. And I have a feeling this might be a head-to-head.
This is 100% a head-to-head. I'm on West Ham on the handicap, and it's a full half goal, and it's at -106. West Ham are a good team. Every time I look at them, they might have lost Rice, but they've gained some depth, and I think they're playing really well in their shape. Alvarez, Ward-Prowse, they add a lot of bite to this team. And I just think that they're a side that can go to Villa Park. And this game, for me, is draw written all over it. And I'd be thrilled if they came away with a draw and a head-to-head win for yours truly in this one. And some teams just play really well against other teams. David Moyes and West Ham play really well against Aston Villa. So I could see West Ham coming away with something here. Head-to-head, let's close that gap and start pushing things in the right direction here. So,
yeah, I have very fond memories. Very fond memories of the last time we did a head-to-head that involved Aston Villa because they did me a real solid favour. I like it. I think that the West Ham are good, but I don't think they're as good as what their results and league position suggest so far this season. I think Aston Villa have still got quite a bit left in the tank.
Okay, let's see. And let's go rapid fire for the remaining 5 games. 15th place Brentford
quick,
against 18th place Burnley. Do you have a play in this one?
No bet. No. I was considering Brentford on the handicap, but I'm happy to leave that alone and just want to see a little bit more from Brentford. They're a team that the results don't reflect how good they've been so far this season. So the 7th best on XG, obviously sitting in the bottom half on the results. So I do expect fortunes to turn, but I don't know. Burnley, they've had a tough start to the season. This is the 3rd game of their opening 9 that you'd probably look at and go, actually, we could probably get a result here. And they got a result in the last 2. So enough of me to just swerve.
A half unit play on over 2.5 at -109. I think Brentford's okay from an attacking perspective, but both are just a mess defensively. Both concede at will. Brentford, no clean sheets in 8. Both teams are scoring 6 of 8. Burnley, no clean sheets in 3 and have the 2nd worst expected goals. But it's just, I think they can score against this Brentford side because they're so bad defensively. It was amazing that it took United so long to score against them last time out. So over 2.5, just a half unit play at -109. 19th place Bournemouth against 14th place Wolves. Gary O'Neill going back to the vitality. Does their former manager heap on the pain to Bournemouth, who it's really been a struggle to start the season?
Yeah, I'm not sure they could do, but the play I'm making is goal line. I'm taking the overs. I was looking at both teams to score, but it's just too short to back now. Obviously, they were hammered last time out Bournemouth by Everton. They really need a result. The schedule's been tough to start the season. I think we have to give them credit for that. That they could have had an easier start, but Iraola's on a hot seat, and ultimately, they are going to need to start picking up results. And I think they played 5 of last season's top 9, plus Chelsea, who were improved, plus the Conference League winners West Ham. So they only had 2 games against teams that they would probably expect to beat. Wolves creating more than last season, but they're also conceding more based on the underlying numbers. They're allowing 1.9 expected goals against per game. So I'll take the overs in the Gary O'Neill derby.
Lamine is suspended for this one for Wolves. Both these teams have been dreadful. Wolves have been punching above their weight. Both are in the bottom 4 in expected points. This is a must-win for Bournemouth here. So give me Bournemouth on the handicap at -0.25 at +109. Safeguard yourself. I guess if they draw, it's a half loss, but I think that Bournemouth can win this game, and I'm taking them at a plus number. It's what I referred to earlier, these handicaps with the plus number, with the safeguard put into place. Bournemouth -0.25 at +109. Forest and Luton Town. I've settled on a no bet for me, but I considered both teams to score no and the under 2.5 at +128. Just some suspensions, a lot of players out for Forest. I don't want to touch Luton Town away from home, so just no bet for me in this game.
Yeah, no bet for me either. Don't like anything in this game at all.
So no play for either of us there. Let's move on. 8th place Newcastle and 9th place Crystal Palace. St. James's Park has been very good to Newcastle. Palace, who's still fit for this team? That's going to be the question heading into this weekend. Seriously, Jake.
Roy Hodgson?
Yeah.
Get him in the lineup.
Yeah. Do you have a play in this one?
I was toying with Newcastle on the handicap because their home record is phenomenal. But I just wonder if they've got maybe one eye on the Champions League game that's coming up in midweek. They play Dortmund at home. That if they win that, they're in a very strong position to qualify. I don't think they'll need to be at their very best to beat Crystal Palace. So I think this could be a very similar game to what we saw them do against Burnley, which was obviously finished 2-0. Would see them cover the handicap, but just for a bit more security, I'm going to take the goal line under 2.75. The line's at under 2.5, but I'm just going to bump it to 2.75, slightly shorter price. You're still getting -125, but you just have that extra bit of security that if there is 3 goals, you get half a loss.
Head-to-head, Newcastle haven't lost to Crystal Palace in 5. They played under 2.5 in their last 5, and it's finished goalless in their last 3 meetings between these teams. 0-0. Like, if you can make an exact score of play, 0-0, is it worth a punt? I don't think so, but I'm doing one of those combo plays because I think Newcastle will win, and I don't think that both teams will score. So both teams will score no. Newcastle win at plus 140. Newcastle, their metrics are outstanding. Anthony Gordon coming back in. And this Palace team, so many injuries to key players like Elise Lerma are close. But if they come back, can they play 90 minutes at St. James's Park and keep up the pace? And who's going to score for this team? They've been very good in terms of their defensive shape. They're tough to break down, but going away from home here, I think that is a really good play. And I'm going to call it's my favorite play of the week. Newcastle to win, and both teams to score no at plus 140. And finally, we do have Monday Night Football this week. It sounds so weird to me. I can't believe we're living in this world right now. Top of the table, Spurs. Yes, top of the table, Tottenham Hotspur hosting 12th place Fulham. Do you have a bet for Monday Night Football?
I
love that reaction.
I didn't, but the handicap's moved in Fulham's favour, which I'm pretty sure it was -1.25 yesterday, and it's now -1. It will have because the price is -118. So that does tempt me. Spurs -1 on the Asian handicap.
Wow, it did move.
Yeah, so I'm probably going to go a unit on Spurs -1. Obviously, that means that if they win by 1 goal, we get a push. If they win by 2, we get a win. These are the kind of teams that they have no problem creating chances against. Fulham, their attacking numbers are okay, but no more than that, and the defensive numbers remain pretty poor. I thought that they were going to be. They turned a corner defensively. Going into that Chelsea game, to concede that many chances and a couple of goals against Chelsea was a huge concern. Yeah, you only have to look at the matches they played against a lot of the teams that we expect to be better. Arsenal 3.2 XG, City 2 XG, Chelsea 2 XG. I think Spurs are not quite at that level, but they're at home. The feel-good factor's there. They've basically got a fully fit squad, and there's question marks about Heung-min Son, but
yep. Sure is.
Yeah, I still think Spurs will have enough in this game.
Second head-to-head of the week. I made a play. Fulham +1 on the Asian handicap at plus 114. It's gone down to plus 107. I made that bet when I saw not only Son limp off for South Korea, but Romero came off at halftime injured. In Argentina's international friendly as well. Their 2-0 victory over Peru. As soon as I saw him unavailable through injury, I made that bet because it's not just Romero, it's not just Son. Basuma is suspended for this game as well. So you're going to bring in Skip, you're going to bring in Højbjerg. I think that this is the time to start fading Spurs a bit. I was thinking about it anyways, and that cemented it for me. So Fulham on the Asian handicap, full unit play at plus 114. So 2 head-to-heads this week. As long as you don't want to go head-to-head this one, we can avoid it.
Yeah, I'm actually going to pull that play. I didn't realize that Romero was out as well. I think
we don't know if he's out, but he came off at halftime, and it seemed like there was.
If he's come off at halftime, travelled halfway around the world.
Yes.
2 players, Basuma and Son, I think you could probably maybe just overcome, and it would be a good test. But 3 players, every spine of your team, I think that's quite a lot to kind of to overcome. So yeah, I'm going to pull that play. I'm not going to take Spurs anymore on the handicap.
All right. I'm just going to pat myself on the back I convinced you. I convinced you to pull your bet.
Yeah, it's not because of a pro Fulham perspective. I'm still not very high on them. I don't think they'll go down, but I don't think that they're capable of causing too many upsets against these kind of teams. But this could be a good opportunity for them to do that, especially with question marks about Solomon as well, and what the club are going to do with him. He's been very vocal on the stuff that's been happening between Israel. Have been happening in Israel, so quite a lot of clubs are starting to kind of suspend players for having.
Isn't he? I think he's out through. I think he's out through injury. Anyways, is
he through injury?
Yeah,
as well?
He's out through injury. Bentancur's out.
And then you've got Brennan Johnson as well.
I don't think that he's available yet either.
Yeah.
And if
Thin
so,
on the
he's just
ground
coming
now.
back. It's just, I think this is a good time to start fading Spurs a little bit. Matchup pending. What I don't love Fulham. I don't love their attack. I don't love their defenders. I do like their midfield. And I think in a game like this, take Basuma out of the team. I think that Polina can kind of control things there and keep this game manageable. Might lose by a goal, get your money back. I just don't think that Spurs run away with this one. I understand Fulham against other top teams haven't been very good. I completely acknowledge that, but this is context dependent. And with the questions around key players for Postecoglou's side, I think that this is a decent play on Monday Night Football. We'll see. Fulham let me down against Chelsea at home a couple of weeks back. We'll see if they can have my back here. Yeah. Jake, before we run, we're late. Your favorite play or best bet of the week? I like my Newcastle Crystal Palace combo play at plus 140. What do you say?
I just like the goals at the City Brighton game. Everyone likes entertainment. Everyone likes watching goals, don't they? But that price, the way in which Brighton are defending, City with a point to prove, that's the one I'm strongest fancy about.
Brilliant. Good to have you back, Jake. You can follow along on Pinnacle's social channels on X, on YouTube. Subscribe, like, spread the word, help support this podcast. On Pinnacle's website, in our betting resources section, head of the new NBA season. It's right around the corner. Copywriter Scott Cullen has written his comprehensive season preview, exploring some of the best future plays. And with matches including AC Milan against Juventus this weekend, Dr. Patrick May looks across the Bundesliga and the Serie A slate of games, comparing Pinnacle's odds with Goal Impact's player model to help you find value. Pinnacle, it's not just for your betting, the most competitive odds in market, great resources to help educate you before you make your plays. Jake, where can people follow along with you and your outstanding content on a week-to-week basis?
So on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, at Jake Oz, 2 Zs, and I'm writing for sportinglife.com, where you'll find my full Arsenal-Chelsea preview with that Kai Havertz card bet, because he's a very dirty player. People don't realise he is a real... And that was when he was playing up front. And now he's playing a little bit deeper against that midfield at Chelsea. I think he could be interesting from a player prop perspective. I
just wanted to bring this up because I know we had no play for Forest and Luton Town. I want to mention this in terms of the cards market. I forgot to do this. There's been a sending off in the last 3 games that Forest has played. And I think that this game has cards written all over it. And head-to-head between these two teams, there's been a sending off in 3 of the last 4 meetings between Luton Town and Nottingham Forest. So 2 scrappy teams, missing key players. The cards market for that one, I know we had no play, but I might have to dig deeper and maybe find a little something there. So thank you for reminding me in a completely unintentional way, because we've gone way over time for this podcast. Apologies to our editors, but we hope that it provided a little bit of insight as the Premier League is back this week. We'll catch you next week. Good luck with all of your plays. This has been EPL Insights for Game Week 9 in the Premier League right here, courtesy of Pinnacle.